Hey, Read Through the Word. Today is January 8th, and today's lesson is called Living Sent. S-E-N-T, not C-E-N-T. And so I want us to look at Genesis chapter 25, verses 1 through 4. And I know today's reading can be like names. Jacob, Esau, we know those guys, and it's a bunch of names. So, hold on. I want you to see what God's doing here. I think, now, I'm not sure where, who all is with us this year. In previous years, we have had people from Australia. I know I've had Scotland. I know I usually ask where people are from. And so one of these, this might be a good one. So even if you're not a normal comment person, comment for me. Even if you want to go, some of you like to comment over in the Read Through the Word Facebook group. So if you want to comment over there, that'd be great, because I'm making a point. I want to make a point with you today. So I know usually today's reading, we're all usually about the birth of Jacob and Esau. And that's usually something old. But I want you to take a look at a few things. I know a couple years back, and I noticed there's someone that's tracking 5 years worth of lessons daily. But a couple years back, I did a lesson on Abraham's other wife, Keturah, that he has after Sarah dies. But that's what I want to read today. But I want to show you a few things. So, it says, Abraham married another wife, whose name was Keturah. She gave birth to Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shuah. Jokshan was the father of Sheba and Dedan. Dedan's descendants were the Asshurites, the Letushites, and the Leummites. Midian's sons were Ephah, Epher, Hanoch, Abida, and Eldaah. All these were descendants of Abraham through Keturah. Okay, so I want, hopefully you hear the name Midian will stick out to you, because it's coming down the road. We will hear that over and over. So I want us to imagine the map behind me that's not really there. Since I started with Read Through the Word, it was going to be, how can we get a map in and show... Excuse me, I keep yawning. I'm so sorry. I promise I'm not bored. It's been a long week. I would love to show you a map. So I want you to think with me right now that as much as we see all the movement of people and the places where people are versus place and space, and I teach advanced AP Human Geography is one of my classes this semester. And so helping my students understand place and space and nations and states and nation states and all of that I love teaching that class, because it is the movement of God's people. But I want us to see that through biblical narrative and the biblical accounts, many of them are about God coming and finding us. God meets people where and however they are, he meets them there. But God never leaves them there. And much of the tension of the Bible, and much of the tension of living the Christian faith now is felt between the not what we were and what we are, not what we were, not where we were, but not where there will be, not yet where they will be, or where we will be. We're in that tension between the two. That's a Romans talk. But I want us to put in perspective here with Abraham and what it's telling us about Abraham. So when God found Abram, or God went to Abram, really, and he moves him first. So he moves him from which is between the Tigris and Euphrates River in the Persian Gulf. So he takes him from there and he moves them. He actually first, so if the map was behind me, this map that I'm always looking at, he would start over in by Tigris and Euphrates, and he goes northwest, and he ends in a land called Haran. And when he's there, his father Terah dies, and then from there, God calls him to go south along the Mediterranean Sea between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean to Canaan, and that's where God calls it. So he moves him. God moves Abram, and in the process, we change his name to Abraham. So we'll call him Abraham from this point on. So in that process, God moves Abraham from a polytheistic city, and he moves him out from all his everything that's familiar. He tells him, to leave your father's household, and to go to a land that I will tell you. And he moves from to Haran to Canaan. Okay, all of this moving and why, and we know we're supposed to get to the Canaan land, but I want you to see something big that God's doing and is still doing now, that we need to see. I think a lot of times, because we read the Bible through a Western lens instead of a Hebrew lens, and we look at the Bible looking for how and all but not really looking for the why. Or remember, I was going to say, not what does this mean about me, but what does this show me about God? Why does he work? Why does he do what he does? Because if the Bible, the meta narrative of Scripture, is who God is and how he works with his people, then all of it is about his purposes and his planning and what he's doing. So always remember that God has a plan. This to Haran to Canaan, none of it was by mistake. All of it had a purpose. But if we were to have our lovely map, or most Bibles have in the back, the maps, which I seem to be the only one that reads all of them. There's usually a map of Abraham's journey. And it will show you, it will either call it the Fertile Crescent, or it might call it the International Trade Route or International Waterway Highway. There's 3 different ways it will call it. But it's like a nomadic highway for caravans that would go through this area. It will show up when we discuss Joseph. And it goes down by the water, and then all the way down into Egypt. And so Abraham's move to the Fertile Crescent and the International Trade Route has a purpose. So what's this have to do with our reading, Lisa? Okay. So you see all these names. Stop thinking. So the purpose of, I answered this question in the Facebook group. The purpose of many of the genealogies and names are for connection points when Moses is writing. So, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, the 5 books of Moses, the Pentateuch, the Torah. Moses writes those during the 40 years of wandering in the wilderness that occurs in the book of Numbers. He is writing the story of God and his people down, so the people can know this God who has brought them out of slavery and brought them into the wilderness to serve him. So they can know, They know they are the people of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But who is this God? So all of it's written down. All these names are not just names. They're people groups. People groups were named for the originator or the patriarch of their clans or tribes. And so when you see all these names, that is to signify the people groups that lived around. Midian will show up a lot. That's why I referenced Midian. But when you see these, it's a connection point for them to go, oh, I know those people. I know those people. I know those people. So, and I want you to also understand, while Isaac is the son of the promise, he is the promised one. He is the one that which the promises will be kept. The Jewish nation will come out of. That Abraham he did not just tell Isaac that there is one God. He told all of his children that. That's why when we find Moses later on, spoiler, Moses will meet a priest in Midian of the one true God. His name is Jethro. He has a daughter named Zipporah, and Moses will marry her. But we'll see that. But I want you to see that when you see all these names of sons, these are people groups. These are people that would have populated all the lands around Canaan. And so there are many descendants. Through these many descendants, Abraham does become the father of 3 world religions, of Judaism, of Christianity, and of Islam. Abraham also becomes the first missionary. And you're like, whoa, 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 Lisa, hold on. No, let's work it in reverse. What God does is God positions Abraham in the center. Y'all know my favorite. Smack dab in the middle. Smack dab in the middle. God places Abraham smack dab in the middle of the ancient world. And smack dab in the middle of the Fertile Crescent. Smack dab in the middle of the international trade route. International waterway highway. That's it. There's all he puts him, that nation, you can't get from one continent to the next without going through his land. God positions Abraham in the center of the ancient world, in the midst of polytheistic people, the Canaanites. All these people, other people groups they will start mentioning, are polytheistic peoples. But in the midst of them, God places the monotheistic Abraham. And then God takes a man from which there were no. He was old, his wife was barren, and he places him there, and he grows the family. And he grows the family into a nation. This nation, for thousands of years, is witness to the nations of the world as they all travel through the land, as they all trade, as they all go. Instead of Abraham going to the nations, God sent the nations to Abraham. And then grows Abraham's family to a nation called Israel. And this nation is a witness to the nations of the world what it means to know and to serve the one true living God. If you will hold that in your mind and in your heart as you read through the books of Moses and you see the purpose God has for his people and the heart that God has for all nations, it's an amazing thing. Instead of God sending people to the nations, God sends the nations to a people. It's amazing. And then to watch God, God still does that today. We'll talk about when we get to the New Testament of how God God will send the nations. God sends people to the nations, and he sends nations to a people. It is an amazing thing to watch God work. But the idea that Abraham and his descendants were to live as missionaries, to tell of the one true God to the world around them. God's heart has been for the world from the beginning. He is sending the nations to his people. He's sending the nations to his people. He does that today. Are we ready? Are we ready? Let's get ready. That's what we're doing here at Read Through the Word. We'll see you next time.